Anyways, pizza talk aside, let's go ahead and talk about something that's going on in Missouri, and I'm just not a big fan of it, but, you know, at least it's not Texas or Florida, right? Before we get into that, let's go ahead and get into the fan art section. The first one we have here is from Nivik, made this in an avatar creator app. Oh, nice. The next one we have here is, well, this is actually a prompt. Said, saw this tweet and kind of had an idea. So here's a fan art of Suris with white hair, a little bit of armor, and a sword. Hope you like it. So I was like, this was a post where I put, I don't have a type, but look, white hair, armored, big sword. You've basically got me at that point. Look, I am a simp for paladin women. Simple as that. Also, Cherry T says, is the WoW Guild still happening? Yes, actually. We're on Mancrick, and we're actually going to be setting up a secondary post over on Defias Pillager for people who want to do hardcore. But yes, we are currently on Mancrick right now, on Alliance side. So if you want to join that, then do so. But yeah, anyway, there's the actual piece of artwork from Living Thrash Can, also known as Zoo Potato. It's hitting it just about everything. I said, why are specifically paladin women so hot? Because they're strong. They can crush me with their thighs, and I mean, really, that's where that. Anyway, next one. The last one we have here is from Mathematical Cabbage. Summer hath arrived, and with it, fan art. Slime Suris in a bikini, everybody. Slime Suris in a bikini. I need to actually get a Suzu to make a little summer hat for me to put on the Slime Suris model. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. But, with that said, if you haven't subscribed already, you should do that. Or also, you know, hit the bell notification icon to appease the algorithm. But, let's move a little more forward here. Here's what we're talking about today. Judge rejects call to block Missouri transgender care restrictions set to go in effect on Monday. So as of right now, it is currently Saturday for me. So, let's take a look here. The St. Louis judge said the arguments from families, doctors, and LGBTQIA groups about the law's constitutionality were unpersuasive and not likely to succeed. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Robbie says, hey, sir, it's the percent which... Oh, God, the percent did go up. Robbie, did you just... Hold on, I have to check that real quick because that's important. Red Joker says, in my opinion, it's a cop-out. Well, let's take it. Oh my god, why does it need me to... PayPal is stupid. PayPal is stupid. Where it's like, hey, I want you to select images of a camera to prove you're a human. Ah, yes. No AI program ever will be able to tell the difference. If you really wanted an AI program to be able to figure out what was real and not, then you would have the AI program instead tell me what a hand was and wasn't. It has no fucking idea. It has no clue. Wait a minute. Did you just... So $20 came in from somebody whose name begins with an A, and I don't want to dox, but also from Ravi. $169? Is that so you can get war words and porn from Stoff? Is that to get both? Is that to get both? Anyway, you did earn it. Oh well. You got your thing. You got your thing. Axo, thank you for naming your points for an owl. The correct one. The right side of history. The one that doesn't make me crave violence. Except against the people who like the other one. But with that said, we have to get back on topic here. St. Louis, Missouri's proposed restrictions on transgender care will go into effect on Monday after a St. Louis judge denied an injunction on Friday. The requested injunction, brought forward by families, doctors, and LGBTQ groups on July 25th, questioned the constitutionality of the proposed restrictions, claiming that the law unlawfully discriminates against transgender people by denying them medically necessary care and insurance coverage because of their sex and because of their transgender status. The Attorney General's office denies the claims, saying the law applies evenly to boys and girls. So let's see here. The St. Louis judge sided with the Attorney General's officer, ruling that the proposed injunction was unpersuasive and not likely to succeed. The law is set to go into effect on Monday and will prohibit Missouri healthcare providers from providing puberty blockers, hormones, and gender-performing surgeries to minors. Well, again, this one I'm not super concerned about, but these ones are... Minors prescribed puberty blockers before August 28th would be able to continue to receive those treatments. So basically, they're saying, nuh-uh, this doesn't negatively affect trans people. It doesn't mostly affect trans people. It affects boys and girls equally. I do not have the crayons or the slurs to describe the stupidity of this. Listen. It's very, very simple. It is equally illegal in some states for a poor man and a rich man to sleep under a bridge. The law applies equally to both, right? Right? If you tell me that law is equal to both in the comment section, I'm going to find your house. Listen here. When we are doing things like this, we can't just go, oh, well, it applies equally to both on paper. No, it doesn't. It actually doesn't. Because in this scenario, the rich man and the poor man, the rich man is not likely to have to sleep under the bridge. The poor man, on the other hand, is probably going check by check and facing homelessness every other month, and is very likely to have to sleep under the bridge. If he's not, poor and homeless and therefore already sleeping under a bridge. It may be applied equally to both of these people under the law that neither of them is allowed to sleep under a bridge, but the reality is only one of these people gets affected. So you can do the stupid run of, well, it affects both girls and guys equally, didn't you know that? And yet, it turns out that kids who are trans are the only ones who are going to be affected by it. Gee, it's almost like that's part and parcel for how it's supposed to be operating if you were a government that was actively trying to strip trans people of their rights. God, weird that. Strange. Strange that. Every major medical organization, including the American Medical Association, has opposed bans on gender-affirming care for minors and supported medical care for youth when administered appropriately. Lawsuits have been filed in several states where bans have been enacted this year. The Associated Press contributed to the report.
We're just days away from a new...
Nope. Stop. The person who created autoplay deserves to have their mother beat them with a frying pan. Just no. Just no. Now, the question is... Okay, so this is just basic news stuff here. I don't care about that. None of it pertains to the actual article itself. So, there's a couple ways to look at this. Imagine if everyone just knew stuff is more complicated than what you learned in high school. I know, right? Also, Dark Bergen, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Seems cruel to the frying pan. I mean, it could be cruel to the frying pan to have to, deal with the person being brained. Stop says, I wish transphobes a very nice get pegged with a brick strap on. So, here's the thing. There's a couple ways you can look at this. You can look at this from the enlightened centrist position of, well, they're just trying to protect the kids. Isn't that a good thing? I understand you might have issues with how the right does things, but this is just an extension of them trying to protect the kids. Nope. I'm gonna stop you there. It has never been about protecting kids. Because what we find is that in every single one of these scenarios where something like this is happening, it starts off with banning affirming care for children, right? banning the ability for a psychologist to recommend social transitioning, banning the use of HRT, banning the use of puberty blockers, and even though we don't see it by and large, banning the use of gender-affirming surgeries for people who are under the age of 18. However, we also find in several states in America that after you ban the care for minors, the next thing that happens is that, oh, they start trying to ban gender-affirming care for adults. And if you ask pundits like Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh what kind of world they want, they also, in fact, want a world where trans kids can't exist as themselves, but trans adults can't exist from themselves. They'll wax lyrical about the good old days when boys were boys and girls were girls and you knew what a guy was at a glance and you didn't have to worry about seeing them in the bathroom. But here's the thing. Honestly, trans people have existed at every single stage of development for the last few centuries, if not more, without any issue. The thing is, most of them have been existing in the closet. Most of them have had to do things like abandon their entire families because of the social stigma their family will put on them, so that they can start new lives elsewhere, and then gain new friends around them, and then keep the fact that they're trans tucked neatly away in their pocket. And again, if you think this is something that doesn't happen, then ask people who are 50, 60, 70, who are trans, what their life was like coming out to their families. A lot of them just had to abandon their families because the stigma around being trans was higher in the past. Now, it's certainly louder now. It's certainly infinitely louder now because they've become the focus of all civil rights in American culture for the time being, because Chris Rufo is stupid and decided that that's the way it ought to be. But the reality is, trans people are going to exist irrespective of how you treat them. They're going to exist at an age under 18, they're going to exist at an age higher than 18, and they're just going to exist. Now, you can make an argument that, oh, well, when trans people do things like that one clip where the trans woman said that they would beat up Ben Shapiro, that makes them look bad. I don't care anymore. Because here's the thing, again. When you have a group of people whose entire existence is fighting for the right to exist, it only makes sense that their default response is going to end up being hostility. And if you don't know the clip I'm talking about, hold on.
Good try. You have to bifurcate it. Did she deserve it? To come out transgender is horribly difficult. It is the most difficult thing you can do. I've been overseas. I've flown helicopter missions, surveillance missions. I've been shot, stabbed. Being brave is being yourself. And being transgender is about the bravest thing you can do. Did she deserve the award? Yes.
Why are we mainstreaming delusion?
It's not delusion.
Why would you call it delusion?
Because Bruce Caitlyn Jenner, I'll call him Caitlyn Jenner.
No,
because
it's
that's
her. You're not being polite to the pronoun.
Because
disrespectful.
Okay, forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings. It turns out that every chromosome, every cell in Caitlyn Jenner's body is male, with the exception of some of his sperm cells. It turns out that his brain structure is male. It turns out that he still has all of his male appendages. How he feels on the inside is irrelevant to the question of his biological sex.
I don't agree with that. I'm not on that train. I'm not on that train. She wants to be called she. I'm going to call her she. I just have a problem with the message and the messenger.
So well, I'm going to do two things. I want to reiterate what Zoe said, which is the bifurcation of the courage to come forward after a lifetime as a male and a certain kind of a male, versus did she deserve this award? Listen, the awards, what are award ceremonies except an opportunity to catch some eyes?
Especially the ESPN.
So, yeah, it's like ESPN, well done, ABC. Yeah. They did exactly what their job was, to attract eyes. They did it. That's what award ceremonies are for.
Yeah, again, why does anybody give a shit about chromosomes? When you go on a date with somebody, you don't know their chromosomes. You never fucking will.
But in terms of the science behind gender dysphoria, you're very familiar with that, Zoe.
Very familiar.
It's not about the chromosome. Excuse me, the chromosomes within
We
our
both know
nuclei. Yeah, go ahead.
chromosomes don't necessarily mean you're male or female.
Gender.
With gender,
Gender
of course.
identity. Go ahead. No, so
Especially, but even so, you have a thing like Klinefelter's syndrome. So you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on
Would you
genetics.
actually like to discuss the genetics? Or
well, no,
what
no.
are your genetics, sir?
Zoe, I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
No, I know. Well,
No, it's entirely appropriate for a political discussion. And so let's that clip right there, people have gotten angry at Zoe for that comment towards Ben. I'm going to go ahead and come out in support of that comment towards Ben. And you can wax lyrical about how that's enabling people to feel violent and all this dumb shit. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I'm going to let you know why I don't give a shit. The reason I don't give a shit about your shitty, dumb opinion when it comes to whether people are allowed to protect themselves, stand up for themselves, etc., what kind of a world are we going to be in if people like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh have their way? What kind of world do we have there? We have a world where trans people will legally not be allowed to be themselves. They will not be allowed to have hormones. They will not be allowed to have their surgeries. They will not be allowed to have their affirming care. What do you do when the entire world around you tells you that it is illegal for you to live? Very simple. You get violent. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sorry to burst that little bubble of yours, that little words aren't violence bubble that you've been lied to about, that somebody has told you, and you internalized like a dipshit. I don't care that you have this naive view of the world that words cannot and can never be violence. Hitler never killed a goddamn person in his life as far as I know. And yet, he's responsible for millions of bodies. What a weird world we live in. I guess words can be violence. Strange that. Weird that. It turns out that when you are in a position of power, when you are in a position of authority, or even perceived authority, there is no difference to the human brain. There's not a single difference between an authority figure and a perceived authority figure to the human brain. Not a one. As far as your reptile brain is concerned, when a person you respect in a position of what you perceive to be power says that a certain thing is okay or a certain thing is not okay, you will tend to smile and nod and agree with it. Because it's what you've been doing your entire life, because most people don't spend the time to sit down and analyze their own thoughts. They instead listen to news articles and pundits, and yes, even people like me, to affirm their thoughts and feelings instead of challenging the things that they believe. And so when somebody says something that is in line with what they believe, they smile and nod and they go along with it, and it causes them to slip down and eventually hear something that they kind of agree with, but not entirely. Like, trans people shouldn't be allowed to transition. And then they start asking, well, what actionable things should they do about that? In that world, which we've been seeing a rise in hate crimes against trans people in the last 5 years, in that world that is currently in the process of manifesting, what recourse are people supposed to do? What recourse are people supposed to be able to enact? What ways are they allowed to defend themselves? And again, you can sit here and pretend until the cows come home that no amount of words can ever equal an actual violent action. And if you do that, then I will point you to every single dictator in history who has led not with a gun, but with their vocal box. Human beings are easy to manipulate. It is very easy. And if you do not believe that, do not lie to yourself. Do not lie to yourself. If you're on the right, then you've probably experienced what you would consider the Tumblrina, or the incredibly loud leftist that doesn't actually believe in the things they say, but they want to seem, at least in your mind, they want to seem like they're perceived as more woke, or more good, or more whatever. You've probably met this person. You've probably got some kind of idea of what this person is. And your opinion is likely that they were easy to brainwash, or they have been brainwashed. But if you're on the left, you probably have the exact same thought, that, oh, people on the right are easy to brainwash because of the things their parents have said to them, or the things their pastor has said to them, or the things their pundits have said to them. The fact of the matter is, everybody understands that human beings are easy to manipulate. We just delude ourselves into thinking that uniquely, we are not the ones getting manipulated. That you, somehow, are the anime protagonist. You, somehow, are so special that it could never work on you. Until one day, you find yourself face to face with your friend, who is coming out to you about the fact that they're gay, or they're trans, or any other descriptor that we will stigmatize in the future. And you find yourself quoting the exact people that you said you were not getting brainwashed by, in order to tell them that they don't deserve to live, or they're going to burn in hell, or they don't deserve treatment, or they're deluded for the things that they believe, despite the things that science says. But don't worry, Daddy Walsh told you exactly what to say in this situation. You watched a documentary about it, and oh, you never actually fact-checked it, because why would he lie to you? And yet, here you are. Definitely not brainwashed, definitely not manipulated, definitely a very independent thinker, agreeing with the Missouri judge that, don't worry, the law is being applied evenly to boys and girls, so it can't possibly be discriminating against trans people, because it's equal, right? Go ahead. If you believe that, then I have a bridge that I can sell you as well. For 15 payments of $19.99, you too can own this imaginary bridge. But this is where I gotta throw it back to you. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already, and as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.